wrapping up their search where a young child's body was discovered last week. NBC's Carrie Sanders is in Orlando with the very latest. Carrie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Meredith. Investigators have been here in the woods for 7 days, searching for clues in and around the area where that skeleton was found. They're expected to wrap up their work here this afternoon. At the same time, they're still waiting for results from an FBI lab to confirm that the bones found here were CAYLEE Anthony. The search area has now expanded to a half-acre. Detectives say they're still here because crime scene investigators are still uncovering evidence. A spokesman for the Casey Anthony defense team says they're being denied access to the crime scene and that the Casey Anthony defense team will simply not be able to thoroughly examine the site.
Well, we're not concerned about whether it's difficult for him or not. We're concerned that we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we collect all the proper evidence.
Dr. G, the medical examiner, with her own TV show, is in charge of the scientific evidence being gathered. The defense has assembled its own dream team, high-profile experts that read like characters from a legal thriller. Already, criminalist Dr. Henry Lee, best known for his testimony during the O.J. Simpson trial, has come to Orlando. Lawyer Linda Kinney-Baden, who recently defended music producer Phil Spector in his murder case. She is also the wife of the TV forensic pathologist Michael Baden. DNA expert Dr. Larry Koblinski from John Jay College of Criminal Justice has joined the team.
Certainly this is a tragedy.
Veteran pathologist Werner Spitz, who was on the committees that reviewed the assassination investigations of JFK and Martin Luther King. Spitz was more recently involved in the O.J. Simpson and John Benet Ramsey cases. And there's Kathy Reichs, the best-selling fiction author. Her series explores the role science plays in solving crimes. The popular TV show Bones is based on her real-life work as a forensic anthropologist.
I'm going to look at those photographs or at that scene or at those remains, and I'm going to see what I see. And to me, it's irrelevant if that helps one side or the other. That's what science does.
How does 22-year-old Casey Anthony, who was unemployed before she was arrested for murder, pay for such a team? Well, the experts say they've signed a confidentiality agreement not to reveal who's paying their bills, so we just don't know. Meredith?
That's exactly the question we were asking here. Carrie Sanders, thank you very much. Clint Van Sant is an NBC News analyst and former FBI profiler. Dan Abrams is NBC's senior legal analyst. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Meredith.
Good morning, Dan. Let me ask you first, what do you make of this team? Linda Kinney-Baden, Dr. Henry Lee, DNA expert Larry Koblinski. Big names. Why them?
Well, the most important thing is the people you're talking about with regard to physical evidence. The Larry Koblinski, the Henry Lees, etc. What does that mean? That means this case is all about the physical evidence. It means that how you interpret what they find is so important that this team feels they need a specialist in each and every area. But I think Carrie's question is a really important one, which is who is paying for this? I mean, not since the O.J. Simpson case have I seen a team assembled of such high-profile forensic scientists on a defense team.
Yeah, Clint, let me ask you a little bit. Dan brings up the evidence, which is the bones that they have found. They're undergoing DNA testing right now to determine if they are those of CAYLEE, or those tests are done and we don't know yet. But do you think authorities are pretty sure that that's who they have?
Well, I think so. Number one, you would have a pediatric dentist who would have looked at the child's dental records and the teeth and the skull. You know that was the gold standard before DNA. That's what we would have gone by. So I think that law enforcement, as well as the defense, are very comfortable these are the remains of CAYLEE Anthony. They're just waiting for the FBI to confirm it and realize when you're looking at these bones, when you're looking at DNA, you're also looking within the bones, within the bone marrow. You may also find evidence of some type of drug. You know, we've heard about chloroform. That may be contained within the bones. That would be something that would help investigators also.
Or exactly the... Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, chloroform is an interesting example of something where you could use all these defense experts. Why? Because they might argue that chloroform is occasionally used by parents, for example, to try and quiet their kids. I mean, I'm not saying that it's
no,
honestly, I've already heard Michael Baden, the husband of the woman who's representing them, talk about that on television. So the point is you want to be able able to use as much of the physical evidence as you can to make the best possible argument that you can make.
You would think that the physical evidence would be very strong for the prosecution, but Clint, isn't there the possibility that they may look at these bones and still not be able to determine either how she died or when she died?
Well, yeah, you know, the obvious things, if we find the bones, if we find what's called tool marks, where it looks like a knife has run up against it, or a bullet wound, or if you can see where the skull has been crushed with some instrument. But if there's nothing there, if there's nothing, no dramatic damage to the remains there, now it's going to be much harder to try to figure out what was the actual cause of death. As well, Meredith, the challenge is going to be the time of death, too.
And you want to match it up as much as possible to the evidence they already have, meaning what they found on her computer, what they found in her home, etc. That's the key, matching what they found there to her home.
Still a lot of work to be done, Dan Abrams. Thank you very much.